But I want to welcome Republican candidate for governor, Debra Medina, to the program. Good morning, Debra.
Morning, Joe. Good to be with you.
I hope you don't mind I'm singing here on a Thursday.
Oh, I'm happy about that.
It's what I do. I feel good all the time. You know what I mean? I love being in Texas. Obviously, you do too. You're running for governor. Now, you're running as a Republican, not a conservative. You are actually, there's an R under your name, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, because, I mean, there's a bit of a split right now in the country I think the administration in Washington would like to pretend there's a split between conservatives and Republicans. You and I both know that's not the case. So let's talk about where you are and why you would even take this shot, knowing that no matter how you want to call them a big politicians or Washington politicians, spinmeisters, whatever you want to say about them, Governor Rick Perry and Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison have won election consistently and are very popular. What made you think I better jump into this race because I can do something here?
Both of their approval ratings are in the 30s. I don't call that very popular, and I voted for them, but they haven't legislated like they campaign, and I think all of Texas is part of that. So when I was asked to run, I had to think about that for a while, but what I didn't have to think about was the fact that I didn't like the choice of a Kay Hutchison or a Rick Perry on the ballot.
Well, I mean, who asked you to run?
Just supporters from around Texas. The first guy that talked to me was a man named Cameron in Houston, actually.
Okay.
Said to me last November, Deborah, why don't you run? And I'd say we've had lots of political discussions at my household for the last 20 years. Mama running for governor wasn't one of them. But it took about 4 months to get to the point that I said, yeah, I will do that. We need another choice. We need someone new and fresh who will actually legislate like she campaigns, walk the talk, and neither Kay nor Rick are doing that, and so it's time for another option. And
whether we like it or not, Deborah, it's a political office. It is. If you win election, you're going to be a politician. Whether you want to say that you're a mama from a small town and you're being thrust into the race because the other ones are big, bad, and ugly. It's a political office. That's what it is. The governor's office in the state of Texas. You can certainly govern in a different way, but you will be, in fact, be an elected politician. Aren't you trying to become what they are?
Absolutely not. I'm pushing hard for the party to create a rule of term limits. I think we all know politics corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. We have got to put people in for a limited time of service so that they are not corrupted by that absolute power, and then they need to come home and live under the laws. We need to thank Kay and Rick for the service to the great state of Texas. Let them get back in the private sector and live. This is a country founded on that idea. Not that we were going to come here and create royalty that has a special set of rules that apply to them and a special set of powers that apply to them. We wanted to see people stepping up to serve for a time and then coming back into the private sector.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, there's certainly nothing in the Constitution about term limits. And you and I, as well as we might agree on a lot of topics, I don't believe in term limits. Actually, I do. Term limits happen every time there's a governor's race. Term limits happen every 2 years for U.S. representatives. They happen every 6 years for senators.
Well, we've been doing it that way, Joe. We've been doing it that way for a long time, and what we've got is a bunch of politicians who are entrenched, who don't govern like they promise, and who are very difficult, as you're going to admit, to beat. When the party says, I bet you put some rules on your children and say you won't do this or you won't do that. I'm going to limit your access to influences that I believe are corrupting. It is the responsible thing for citizens to do. The citizen power is vested in parties and political parties that take the high road will say, you know what, we recognize that that's a corrupting influence. We appreciate your service. We like who you are. We're going to elect you, but we're only going to leave you there for a time, not to punish you, but to protect you and to ensure that we're upholding the rule of law, promoting our ideas. We don't want you to become corrupt. We're going to leave you there just for a season.
It's Republican candidate for governor Debra Medina, and we appreciate your time. I understand the analogy that you made, but I will never look at my children and say, you can be my child for so long that I'm going to get rid of you and get another one.
That's not what I'm saying.
I understand that, Deborah, but I mean it wasn't as good an analogy as maybe it could have been. Here's where I am on term limits, and let me make this as clear as I can. You might be the right candidate for all I know. I'm not endorsing Rick Perry, Kay Bailey Hutchison, Debra Medina, or my mother. Not yet. I will eventually, but I'm not yet. Here's where I am. Let's say you get elected. Let's say you kick total butt. Let's say that you're awesome and we love you and you're doing the right job. You're telling me that I'm going to be forced to not be able to vote for you as an American? My voice is going to be squelched if I love Debra Medina as my governor? I can't keep her in office? That's bull. I mean, you're admitting that you're going to be corrupted if you get elected?
No, I just believe that most will, and that it is the proper and proper responsible thing to do. I don't know what term we are. We've got a ballot petition up there that calls on the Republican Party to create that rule to set that term limit so as to protect those individuals from that corruption that we've seen historically time and time again. 95% of the time, 99% of the time, it comes. People are tired of Congress. Ratings are at an all-time low. We've lost seats in the Texas House. We're going to continue to lose seats when we keep putting back incumbents that aren't walking the talk. It seems a reasonable measure, and you're right. It's not in the Constitution, but it sure is in the writings of the founders. They believed people would go and serve for a time and come back and live under the laws that they passed. That's one thing. We really need to talk about securing private property.
Well, Deborah, we can certainly talk about these other things. And I'm not going to limit our time here, so we can certainly talk about these other things. But I want to.